Thank you very much, Reggie. We are broadcasting live from Royal Area here in Tlokweng. And of course, today is the fourth day into the inaugural Africa Biodiversity Summit. It started officially on Sunday, and there has been several events that actually have brought us to this very moment. And today, we are expecting the President, Advocate Duma Boko, who will be officiating at this grand occasion. And of course, bringing it also to a close as well in terms of the deliverables of the past few days. There is a lot to expect from this summit, Reggie, in light of the whole purpose of it. It is the first of its kind in Africa, and having Botswana host this auspicious occasion is very telling of not just her own priorities, but the subscriptions, what she subscribes to in terms of the agenda, Africa's Agenda 2063. And of course, this summit also speaks to the African agenda, which Botswana does subscribe to. And of course, there's so many takeaways that we are expecting from this summit in terms of the objectives of this summit, including providing political direction and support for Africa's biodiversity priorities, dealing with issues around financial management, strengthening partnerships within the region. We are looking at a representation of all of Africa's countries, 54 countries to be precise, that are represented at this summit, who will collectively deliberate and establish a way forward in terms of how to go about biodiversity towards sustainable development. Reggie, I'd also have you know that the past few days have also been very fruitful on so many fronts. We do know that yesterday, looking at the deliverables of the ministerial sessions, the Minister Winter Muludzi actually confirmed that Botswana will ratify the Maputo Convention, which is very critical to the direction in which Botswana is moving in, very critical to the direction in which the region is moving in terms of its biodiversity engagements. There's so much that we can talk about, but we will get back to you, Reggie, in a moment's time as the full proceedings of this summit get underway. But right now, I'll just give over to One.
All right, thank you very much, Sidi. Let me also welcome you, our viewer here at the Royal Area in Tlokweng. We are on the final day of the Africa Biodiversity Summit. This is the day that we are expecting Africa to engage at a heads of state level. But remember that the conversation has come through different stages, from the technical findings right down to the ministerial and policy obligations, and now we're coming to the heads of state level. But one of the major focuses being financing. We talked at the level of communities engagements, but then also financing comes out quite pronounced. At this moment, we are being joined by a representative from the African Union Commission, Dr. Olmen Koboto, who's going to speak around just the issues that have been deliberated so far. Let me take this time and welcome you, Dr. Koboto, and start off perhaps with just where the conversation has come from Sunday. is we are getting the facts about just how Africa's biodiversity is probably, without exaggeration, one of the richest. We have all ecosystems that are existent, from marine to the vast deserts, to the savannas, to the wetlands, the tropical rainforests as well. But let's take it here. As we're about to wrap up on the deliberations from the summit, and we have seen the richness of Africa's biodiversity, perhaps what are the concerns that are coming out that you could highlight?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here. As you have indicated, the conversation that has been translating through heavy technical engagement,
yes,
in-depth analysis of the status of biodiversity in the African continent. The realization is that the African continent is richly endowed with natural resources, like
yes,
you have said. And currently we are expecting quite a number of threats, including biodiversity loss, which are interlinked with others like climate change, desertification, land degradation, and also the societal pressures for development.
Yes.
But be that as it may, it is recognized that most of the economies in the African continent are actually anchored on biodiversity.
Yes.
And therefore, it is important that as we look into the narrative of biodiversity conservation, protection, sustainable use, and so on, we must first appreciate its contribution to the socio-economic development imperatives for the continent in order to develop.
Yeah.
And then the second thing, we should also be mindful of the need to place the people at the center of our conservation conversation.
Yes.
So that at the end, we are able to grow or achieve Africa's prosperity from the use of what we have,
yes,
at the moment. So quite a number of considerations have been discussed, particularly looking at how we govern our biodiversity in the African continent, and with the view to ensuring that it is governed in a manner that will actually facilitate or contribute to sustainable development. Okay. Then the second part is on the socio-economic contribution,
yes,
yes, which has been very, very central. How do we make sure that we create jobs, we create revenue, we empower our people from our biodiversity?
Yeah. One of the issues that came out, and I think perhaps from yesterday's considerations, is the realization of the disadvantage of the fragmented approach or efforts from the different African countries. And perhaps today, as we're going into the engagements of the heads of state, what do you anticipate perhaps would be, because the summit really aims to, among others, give guidance to political direction as it comes to Africa's response. What do you anticipate perhaps would be some of the topics for the heads of state today?
Exactly that. We need that political direction and commitment from that highest level to say we are willing to harmonize our policy frameworks, so that whatever we are doing is able to speak to one another. It's also consistent with one another. The benefits of this are in many ways, but to highlight maybe one or two, we know biodiversity is transboundary. It knows no borders, and therefore what happens on one country should also be consistent with with what happens in another country. The second thing that goes to the socio-economic development aspect of it is that when someone comes, for example, to Botswana, wanting to exploit our natural endowments, and when they find that the policies in Botswana are strict, they must not find a niche or a loophole in our neighboring countries and run to the neighboring country and do the same. But if we harmonize our policy and legal frameworks, it avoids that, and in the overall, we are able to achieve a collective imperative or objective smoothly and without any difficulty. We expect the heads of states and our political leadership to make commitments on how they are going to do that, and actually commit to implementing what they agree here going forward.
One aspect that also comes out as an intention or an objective of the summit is to forge sustainable and meaningful partnerships. I don't know if anything has come up from the 3 days that we have deliberated that will perhaps be elevated to the level of heads of state as regards partnerships. I know that here in Botswana we have partnerships with communities, we have partnerships, I don't know, other levels, but let's speak to what has come out in terms of partnerships and management and protection of biodiversity.
Obviously, as we look at the mode of delivery in most of the strategic documents and policy frameworks, we depend on fostering effective partnerships.
Yes.
And these are partnerships that should actually be looking into our story as the Africans, our demands as the Africans, and what is suitable for our special circumstances, not the kind of partnership that comes to dictate as to what we should do in order to meet our own socio-economic development needs from biodiversity. So this is actually spelled out or coming out a lot more clearly from the discussion, starting from the technical segment, even at the minister's level, to say we need to forge partnerships and we need to create some as well amongst ourselves within the African continent that can actually drive our agenda.
Right. Yeah. Africa's biodiversity is spectacular, right from the mighty African elephant down to the rare species like the pangolin, you know, and one would think it is a biodiversity that is attractive to the interested parties for business or private practitioners. But I want to find out from our agenda, both the pronouncement of Agenda 2063 and the Africa Strategy for Biodiversity and Action. Where or what are some of the clauses or some of the pronouncements around financing for biodiversity? Because the theme of this summit is leveraging on this biodiversity for prosperity. Let's speak to what are some of the guidelines that we have already and where we want to take it coming from this summit.
Thank you very much. There are two aspects that deals with the issues related to financing, which are very central in this summit. One is the socio-economic development thematic area, which talks about development of our development of bioeconomy, which includes all the value chains around sustainable utilization of our natural resources. The second one is specifically focused on enhancing financial flows for biodiversity management, where our leadership will provide direction as to how we can define innovative financing mechanisms that we can use to finance biodiversity in the African continent. And this starts with creating our own funds, our own pool of funds, and mechanisms for raising funds independently ourselves as the African continent before we even reach out to